What's going on, everybody? It's just another day in the kitchen, back with another episode, and in today's video we're taking a look at the latest updates surrounding Kanye West's Vultures album, including the listening party last night, as well as some brand new merch. Now before we get started, I wanted to give a special shout out to the homie Strain Beats, who's been cooking up the beats for these videos, so make sure you guys give him a follow and show him some love. And while you're here, you might as well drop a like and subscribe, and join our free Discord to stay up to date with the latest and the greatest. And shout out to all of my chefs in there. Now, after what seems like 10 years in the making, last night or this morning, depending on when you watch this video, Kanye decided to finally drop Vultures Volume 1. And before we dive into this video, I wanted to highlight this 2016 Kanye tweet where he talks about working on the Pablo album as a concept of a living thing. He goes on to mention that it's something that he will continue to work on, and this is something that we end up seeing all of these years later with this Vultures project, so keep that in mind. Now, it was just yesterday, or February 9th, that Kanye hosted his second Vultures listening party of 2024, this time in New York City. And as you can tell from these photos right here, people were definitely hype, especially following the previous night's listening party in Chicago. And while people were online complaining about how long it took to get to their seats, there was an equally long line just to get to the merch. And I wanted to show you guys the following clip just to give you an idea. Now, just like we saw at the Chicago listening party the previous night before, Kanye added this $20 black Vultures t-shirt, which was a stark contrast from the $80 he's currently charging on his yeezy.com website, which you guys can see right here. And while we didn't see any other new Vultures merch at the listening parties, apparently these 4 pieces have been uploaded to the back end of yeezy.com, so at some point they are supposed to drop on his website, and I'd love to know in the comments what you guys think about them. Personally, I'd love to pick up either one of these long sleeves, and I think that they would be a great addition. Now, as far as the setting of this New York listening party last night, as you can see, the arena was smoke filled and it featured these Vultures flags all over the place, which definitely set the tone. And it actually came out that not only Ty but also Kanye were working on their verses leading up to the previous listening party, just moments before they were supposed to go on stage. So if we hear some verses that sound pretty lazy or unfinished from Kanye, I think it's safe to say that we know exactly why. Now, if you've been following this Vultures album rollout since the beginning, you'll know that he had some issues with sample clearances surrounding the song Everybody. However, it was just yesterday that Ozzy Osbourne, the alleged Prince of Darkness of all people, decided to create a stink and a beef with Kanye, alleging that he wouldn't clear the sample of one of his songs. And I get he reserves the right to not clear whatever samples he wants, but ironically I found this picture of Ozzy dressed up as Kanye last year in this interesting clip.
Who do you think has influenced your stage shows the most?
Me?
Where did you get your ideas from? From working in a mortuary when you were 15?
Adolf Hitler.
What do you mean by that, Ozzy?
Adolf Hitler had a charisma in a bad way. And I kind of admired him. He was a freak, he was a lunatic. But he had something about him, you know. I know it was all bad what he did. It was terrible what that guy did. He killed all these people and whatever. But it was like, he had something about him, you know. And I admired him, not for what he was, but for people. And I suddenly stopped to myself, hey man, if somebody put that in the positive way, for the good of mankind, and that's all I mean, whatever anybody says about me, I may be the biggest lunatic that you've ever met in your life, guys.
Now, with all that being said from Ozzy's mouth himself, I think it's quite ironic that he had such praise for Hitler all of those years ago, yet he refuses to clear the Kanye sample on grounds of him being an anti-Semite in 2024. So I'll let you guys judge in the comments whether you think Ozzy has a point here. Now, as far as the actual New York listening party that took place last night, I have to say, at least from what I was able to watch, that the show went off without a hitch, and it seemed pretty successful. And although he wouldn't bring out any other new guests, Kanye would later be joined on stage by Playboi Carti, who was also featured on this Vultures album, and was also part of the other previous Vultures listening parties as well. And if you're tired of waiting on him to drop the album, let us know in the comments. Now, it was shortly after the listening party wrapped up that Kanye would get active again on his social media, sharing the following image on his Instagram story, which basically confirmed that Vultures would be hitting streaming platforms within the next 24 to 48 hours. And I have to report that at the time of me recording this video at around 8 a.m. on February 10th, unfortunately Vultures has still not landed on Spotify, so I'm jealous of everyone else that's able to listen to it, so let us know in the comments what you think about it. And I have to say, I've been purposely avoiding listening to all of the leaks so I can have a fresh listen to this one, so if you guys want to hear my honest album reaction, let me know in the comments because I've never done a video like that. Now, something else I wanted to point out about this Vultures release, which is glaringly obvious, is that Kanye at the last minute decided to update the album art and decided to change it to the following, which features himself wearing the Jason mask as well as his wife Bianca wearing basically nothing. So I'm genuinely curious if he decided to update the album art due to the backlash and controversy surrounding the original. And if you're not sure what I'm talking about, I covered it in a previous video, so make sure you guys check it out. And ironically, I also wanted to point out that it's also the 20th anniversary since Kanye dropped his debut iconic album, The College Dropout, and it's also the first time that Kanye himself has been featured on an album cover since then. Now, to wrap up this video, I wanted to bring up that Kanye tweet I mentioned at the beginning of this video from 2016, in which he mentions that the Pablo album is basically a living thing in which he'll continue to work on it and update it. Because similarly with his Vultures album, he's already updated the album's title as well as added some new tracks, as you guys can see. And something else I wanted to point out, that at the time of me recording this video, and given that Vultures has been released for only a couple of hours now, it's currently sitting at number 6 on the charts, so I'm curious how long it'll take for it to go number 1. Now, there's definitely a lot that can be said about Kanye in this Vultures album rollout, but I wanted to highlight my favorite piece of merch, which is still yet to drop and I do hope to see sometime in the future. And while there's still a whole lot to be said about the album itself, given that I haven't yet listened to it, I do have to give Kanye his props in that he technically did drop this on February 9th, I guess, or at least submitted it like he said he would. So in my closing thoughts, it's honestly insane just to look back and see what kind of career he's had and the evolution he's had over the last 20 years. And although we may never get the old Kanye back, both musically and stylistically as well, I think it's super exciting to see every single era that he's been a part of, and I think that this new one, including this Yeezy Pod era, will also be a legendary one in its own. Now, if you made it this far in the video, thank you so much for watching, and thank you for cooking with the kitchen. And more importantly, thanks for being a part of this Vultures album rollout. It's definitely had its ups and downs, but honestly, I'm super excited to listen to the album, and again, if you guys want to hear my live album reaction, let me know in the comments. Now, as always, guys, thank you so much for cooking with the kitchen. Remember to stay safe out there, and remember, it's lit straight up, and peace.